Yes, my name's Colin, Colin MacDonald. I'm calling you from Glasgow today, and I'm an engineer, and I'm a civil engineer, and I work currently in railways, actually. You could say I'm a civil engineer, and I'm a railways engineer, and I'll show you quite a bit of both of these over the course of this presentation. I've been working in civil engineering now for 25 years, probably more, since leaving school, since leaving university. And I am delighted that I chose civil engineering because it is a fantastic subject, a fantastic career. But you're probably wondering, what is civil engineering? Well, I'm going to start by explaining what civil engineering actually is, and then what civil engineers like me are doing to help save the planet. So let's see first what civil engineering is. Well, first of all, it's everywhere. Most of it is hidden, but believe it or not, you are using it from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment that you go to bed at night. Civil engineering is everywhere. I'm going to give you lots of different examples of what civil engineering is. I'm going to start with buildings. So civil engineers will build all sorts of buildings, some really new type impressive buildings like this one. This is the Glasgow Science Centre, and at the back of it is the Science Tower. And believe it or not, that Science Tower in the background, it moves. It moves depending on which way the wind is blowing. It's a building that actually moves. And that's part of what civil engineers are. They're so clever, they can build buildings that actually move. This might not look like a building, but it is. This is the London Olympic Stadium, and it's now a football stadium. And this is a building built by civil engineers, designed by civil engineers, built by civil engineers. It can hold up to 80,000 people. And that's a lot of people that civil engineers build buildings for, so that they can look after, so that they can watch their sport in safety. So there's another aspect of what civil engineers do. They provide these things for people, for 80,000 people to go and sit and enjoy some kind of sport. But it's so much more than just buildings. Bridges is a big one for civil engineers. We build bridges. This one's 130 years old. This is a bridge just outside Edinburgh. This is the Forth Bridge. And it carries trains. It has carried trains all that time for 130 years. And in fact, we're going to build a visitor centre, believe it or not, right on the very tippy top of this bridge, so that you'll be able to go to the very top of that bridge, very top of that picture there, and you'll be able to look out over the sea, and you'll be able to look down on the trains going underneath you, on the bridge underneath you. And this is on something that's over 130 years old. If you want to see a bridge getting built, this is a short video of a railway bridge getting built just outside Edinburgh, and it's a bridge to take trains over a road. Now, you'll see immediately that it is hugely speeded up. It's actually quite funny when you first see it. There's a lot of people moving very, very fast. But really what happens is a big crane comes in and builds 4 enormous concrete beams to complete this bridge. So let's see if we can watch this. See if we can watch the 4 beams being installed. I told you they move very fast. This is the crane. I always think this is a bit like Thunderbirds, this bit. And there's the crane going into position. And then another crane has to build the big crane. So there's a small crane that's building a big crane, and that's what's happening now. Remember, it's hugely speeded up. And here comes the big crane. Whoosh. And believe it or not, that's one of the biggest cranes in the world. It can lift 1,200 tons. So what it's going to do here is going to lift this big concrete beam. This concrete beam is 100 tons. That's about 50 cars. There's the first one going in. There's the second one. Everybody's really busy milling around. There's a second one getting lifted. Pop. And into location. Oh, look, the sun's come out. And there's a third beam going in. And then the last of them. Or at least, this is the last of the ones in this video. And that's the 4 big beams being lifted in. Obviously, there's more beams to lift in on the left side of the picture, but hopefully you get a feeling for what civil engineers do. What you've just seen there is a whole Saturday and a Sunday, all compressed into about 2 minutes. So it was filmed entirely over a Saturday and a Sunday. It's compressed completely into 2 minutes. So that's a lot of work just to build one bridge. But it's not just the bridges. It's tunnels. We build tunnels. Tunnels under the sea, under mountains, through mountains, under cities. Every city, most towns have got tunnels of some sort, especially cities, huge underground tunnels. And these tunnels carry cars, they carry trains, they carry people. In fact, I think you can see a person in that one there. But we even build tunnels, believe it or not, for animals. So that animals like badgers and otters, so that they can safely cross underneath busy roads. So we build all sorts of tunnels. Remember what I said about it being hidden? If you didn't travel the tunnel, you wouldn't know it was there. And of course, we build roads. We build roads everywhere. People always need roads, whether it's for cars, buses, lorries, bicycles. And even though we're changing to more electric cars, some of you may have an electric car, some of you may not. Although we're progressively changing to more and more electric cars, we'll still need roads. We'll still need roads for all our new electric cars and electric buses and electric lorries. Railways. This is another thing civil engineers do. This is really what I do right now. Now, when you look at this photo, you're probably looking at the train. And that's a great feat of engineering in itself, the train. But everything around it as well is engineering, and that's civil engineering. So that's the track under the train, the rails, the electric wires above the train, all the train signals, the stations, all the stations that it stops at. All of these are built by civil engineers. And airports. So again, you're probably looking at the plane, and it's a very impressive plane, and that's a lot of engineering in that plane. But there's also engineering to support it around it, the runways, the buildings, the shops, the control tower. It's all built, designed and built by civil engineers.
You said that you're in the industry of trains. Have you always been working with trains as you've been a civil engineer, or have you had quite a varied background?
I've had a varied background. I'll take this picture of a toilet off the screen first. We'll come back to that one.
That's right.
Yes, I mean, I've worked in trains now, railways, for about 25 years. And I think in the 5 years before that, I worked a lot at airports. And a good example is Glasgow Airport. I spent 3 years building the new terminal at Glasgow Airport. So I've worked in airports, I've worked in roads, I've worked in underground tunnels, I've worked all over the UK, I've worked in Hong Kong building railways. So it's incredibly diverse civil engineering. You'd be surprised what civil engineering is. So I've worked in a lot of different types. Yes, I have. Now, I'm going to go back to the toilet picture. Now, on the left, fresh water. The water that comes to your house, to your school, to any building. It comes in pipes built underground by civil engineers. You don't see them, but they're there. And yes, when you flush the toilet, every time you flush the toilet, it all gets taken away safely in another system of pipes, all hidden underground, but all provided by civil engineers. So civil engineers will build water pipes, toilet pipes, sewage pipes, but they'll also build airports, railways, bridges, harbours. It's an incredibly wide variety. It's generally quite big stuff that we build. That's one good way to describe it. It's all civil engineering. Everything that you've just seen, it's civil engineering. But I said at the outset, how do civil engineers then help to save the planet? This is very topical just now. I'm in Glasgow. We've just finished the climate summit in Glasgow. So it's very much on people's minds, the climate and civil engineering. So how do civil engineers help to save the planet? Well, civil engineers, they make the buildings and the machinery that help to generate our electricity. So here's the question. Should we make electricity like this? This is burning coal or oil or gas. And it's putting a lot of fumes out into the atmosphere, which are not good for the planet. So should we make electricity like this? Or is this way better? We all need electricity. We need more and more of it for our homes, for our schools, our factories, our shops, our airports, for charging our phones, our computers, our iPads, our new electric cars. Everyone wants more and more electricity. So civil engineers are building wind turbines like these ones, and these ones are out at sea. We build them at sea because the wind pretty much always blows at sea. It doesn't always blow on the land. You might see wind turbines on your way to school in the morning that aren't turning, but you can be pretty sure if they're built out to sea, they'll be turning, they'll be generating electricity. So the harder the wind blows, the faster they turn, the more electricity we make. So is that one better? Or is that one better? I think we can all agree that this one's going to be better because it doesn't pollute the planet. And the same applies to trains. So should we still use trains like this? A lot of our trains use diesel fuel, just like our cars. But this one's putting out a lot of fumes. If you can see the smoke, can you see the smoke coming out of the front of the train? This train's putting a lot of fumes out into the atmosphere. So should we still use trains like this? Or is this one better? This one is powered by electricity. You can see the electric wires of the train. It picks up electricity from the electric wires, and that gives it the power to travel at very high speed. This is a very fast train, this one. This one travels at over 180 miles an hour. But it's powered by electricity. There's no fumes, there's no smoke. And of course, the electricity that powers it, it can come from those wind turbines that we saw earlier. So should we still use trains like this? Or should we use more trains like this that do not pollute the planet? It's a good question. But sometimes it's more difficult to see what's good for the planet and what's bad for the planet. Remember what I said earlier about a lot of engineering being hidden? Well, these two trains, they look very similar, but one of them is powered by diesel fuel and puts out a lot of fumes into the atmosphere, like many of our cars. And one of them is powered by electricity. Diesel fuel, burning diesel fuels, fossil fuels, as we call them, it's not good for the planet. So really, the train on the left is not good for our planet. We need more trains like the one on the right. If you look very carefully, you can see the electric wires above the train. It's cleaner, it's better for our planet. We need more trains like the one on the right. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build new railways, new electrification, new systems to take more trains on the right. And we're trying to stop using the trains on the left.
Besides the difference in the sort of the propulsion of it, obviously the difference between using the diesel and the electric engine, are there other ways in which you can design the rail lines or the trains that will help in their efficiency for when they do move over to electric? Are there other aspects that you can change?
There's quite an exciting development in trains as well, which means we power them by hydrogen or battery power. So there's two trains here, a diesel fuel train, the old style train, and the new one on the right, which is an electric train. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time to put in place, to build a new electric, to put in place all these wires overhead. However, what we can do is build other types of trains. So we are actually developing hydrogen trains, believe it or not. And when a hydrogen train burns fuel, the only thing it emits out into the atmosphere, believe it or not, anyone guess? What does a hydrogen train emit to the atmosphere when it burns fuel? It emits water. Not fumes, not smoke, water. And so a hydrogen train is a new way of moving passengers. There's not many of them about. There's ones in the country in Europe called Germany, and there's one in the UK that's running. So it's just a trial at the moment, but it's a very exciting development, is the use of hydrogen trains. The only problem with them, they can't go very fast. They're not very powerful. They can't go up steep gradients. They can't haul big trains. They're very limited to very short trains. But it's a good development, and it's a good way of getting from the train on the left, while we're still building the new tracks for the one on the right, we can use hydrogen powered trains. So it's what we call an interim step. Now, this is a team of engineers building those new electric wires. In fact, they've actually got the new electric wire in their hands. And that's the wire to power the trains using the electricity from those new turbines that we saw there, all to stop burning fossil fuels, to help save our planet, all by civil engineers. And we call this decarbonisation. It's a big word, but it's for a very, very big problem that we call climate change. So who are civil engineers? Well, there's all sorts. These people are they're all civil engineers, building everything that we've just seen. They've worked hard at school, and they're people who like to build things. People like to build things and build them for other people. That's probably the best way I could describe a civil engineer. I like to build railways, to build airports, to build bridges, so that other people can use them. I like that. I've done that for years, and I get a lot. I like that I do that. So I'll leave you with that question. Do you think you could be a civil engineer and help to save our planet? I'm sure you could. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that was a lovely presentation, and hopefully a few people have looked at that and maybe it's expanded what they thought about engineering in the civil sense like that. Because it looks from your presentation like it could really be anything from building a set of new houses, especially when they've integrate the energy efficiency, and to moving on, like you say, to bigger projects like underwater tunnels that go under rivers and even under the sea in the case of Britain to France's train. And it is, like you say, in bridges and special projects. It's hopefully that's got some people thinking about it. We must have done, because we are getting a few questions coming through for you. If you're ready to answer a few for us.
Please do, yeah, please do.
So we do have one here that's why would you what made you become an engineer? Sorry, what gave you that initial push to make you want to be an engineer?
You know what, I think I was about 14, 15, and I remember not far from where I was living, they were building a bridge, a place called Inverness. And it was one of these bridges where they built from both sides of the river, and they built it out, and they brought the two parts of the bridge over a series of weeks and months. They kept building this bridge out and out and out and out, and it came together in the middle. And this is a huge bridge, way up high in there. It takes a motorway over the river. And I remember looking at that as a teenager thinking, you know what, I want to build one of those. I want to build a bridge. And so I didn't know what kind of people built bridges. I had no idea. And I asked the careers people at school, and they said, civil engineers, go away and have a look. And so I had a look, and I thought, yep, that's what I want to do. So I like building. I just like building stuff. But I get the most out of building stuff and then seeing other people use it. That's what I love.
Yeah. Do you remember what the bridge was called that you
It's the Keswick Bridge. The Keswick Bridge.
Keswick Bridge.
Keswick Bridge at Inverness. And in my time, I haven't built a bridge that big. I've built smaller bridges, I have to say. So I started building bridges, but then I've moved into railways. And actually, in railways, you build a lot of bridges. A lot.
Yeah.
At the moment, I have my project. I've got about 60 bridges that I'm starting to either build or expand. It's a huge piece of work.
Wow. Yeah, it's 60 bridges. That's a lot of
60
planning.
bridges.
So we've been asked, what is the hardest part of your job?
Hardest part is getting people to all work together, probably, as a team. That's probably the hardest thing. You know, actually building a bridge, building a railway. When you get out there and you've got big cranes, or you've got big machinery and you're lifting these things in, it actually comes together. It's actually quite easy to actually put these things together. It's all this stuff. It's all the teamwork of everybody coming together and agreeing how to do it, and agreeing how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take. It's getting people together to work together. It's not the building that's a difficult bit, I don't find. It's probably getting everybody to work together, because some people want to go that way, some people want to go that way. Getting everyone to agree to what we're designing, what we're building. Once you get all that agreement and everybody starts working together, it's great. It's absolutely wonderful.
I think you might have touched a little bit on this next one. We've been asked, what excites and what scares you the most when you're on your building site?
What excites me is just when it's about to finish. In fact, I think what excites me is seeing the first people using it. You know, there's something wonderful about opening a new railway. And on the Monday morning, you open it up, and all these hundreds of people arrive, and they get onto the train and they go off. And it seems like such a simple thing, but I look at it and go, I built that. And you look at it for years and think, I built that. You know, it's the same at Glasgow Airport. Every time I travel overseas, or I fly, I go through a building that I built. Sometimes I look around thinking, I can't believe I built this. And I get a lot of satisfaction. That really excites me. What scares me a little bit is, and you maybe have seen it on that very quick video that I showed, there's a lot of big machinery on a site, on a building site, a lot of big machinery. There's things that can go wrong. It can get dangerous if people aren't careful. So if people don't work together as a team, it could be dangerous on a building site. I've never seen a serious injury. I've never seen people really badly hurt, but I know that people that do get hurt on building sites if they're not careful. And I always worry when I'm on a site that either I'll get hurt or that somebody else will get hurt. But I have to say, having worked for 25 years, it's a lot better now than it was when I started. A lot safer.
We have been asked, if hydrogen trains are better for the environment, why do we not use them already?
Yes, I mean, that's a great question. Yes, because if you have a hydrogen train, then you don't even need to bother with all the wires overhead. You just have the hydrogen train. But unfortunately, they're not powerful enough, at least not yet. Yeah. Maybe in 20, 30 years' time, they will be. But right now, hydrogen trains are limited to very small passenger trains that generally go on pretty flat ground for relatively short distances. A lot of our trains, if you get a train from Glasgow to London, it has to go 400 miles. It has to go 125 miles an hour, and it has to carry about 500 tons. That's what a train from Glasgow to London is about 400 to 500 tons. That's 1,000 cars more. So a hydrogen train is just not powerful enough yet. It's good for very short journeys with a few people. It's not good for long, and it's not good for what we call freight. So that's not passengers, but things like manufactured goods, that transfer of manufactured goods on trains. Anything from timber to Tesco groceries, but all of that gets hauled by train. But a hydrogen train is not powerful enough to carry that at the moment. Maybe it will be in the future.
I think that's something for us all to look forward to.
Well, that's where engineers are needed now. An actual hydrogen train itself, that's more mechanical, electrical engineering, rather than. But we still need civil engineers like myself to build the railways to take the hydrogen trains. It doesn't have to be civil engineering; it could be any kind of engineering.
We've been asked how long it took you to train as a civil engineer.
So I stayed all the way to the end of school. I got good results at school. I went to university for 4 years. I think now you have to go to university for 5 years if you want to be a. That's not true. If you can be a civil engineer after 3 years at either college or university, and then after once I started working, then it took me about 6 years, I think, to become what we call professionally qualified. So I'm a chartered, it's what we call a chartered engineer. Just like you can have a chartered accountant, you can have a chartered architect. I'm a chartered engineer. And so that took me, so from leaving school, about 9 years, 10 years, something like that.
Do you get to work with electricians a lot? I know that you said that teamwork aspect of it is very important with the job that you do, and obviously you need everybody reading from the same page as it was. Do you get to work across disciplines of engineering quite often?
This is why I like working in railways particularly. So as a civil engineer, if you're building a bridge, you're pretty much working with mostly other civil engineers. If you're working in railways, I'm working with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, signaling engineers, people who are not engineers, who do modeling, transport modeling, people who are really, really good on what we call three-dimensional models on computers. People are very good on computers, but also accountants, finance people, planners. So in railways, you tend to work with a lot more different types of people, especially engineers, because obviously a train, that's not civil engineering. Train itself is more built by mechanical and electrical engineers. So for myself, I build the stations, I build the track, I build all the drainage systems, I build the signals. So, but railways is a great opportunity to work with all types of other engineers. And actually, so are airports. Airports are good for that too.
What is the biggest project that you've managed to take part in? I know you were showing us like the stadiums and stuff before. Have you ever managed to take part in a project similar to that size? I know it's not necessarily that big, but
the actual biggest thing that I've built, hard to say a thing. Probably the biggest new thing that I've built is what we call the Borders Railway line. It went from Edinburgh south into the Scottish borders. It was 30 miles long. So this is the other thing. If you build a bridge is usually only maybe 100 meters long, something like that. This railway that I built from end to end was 30 miles. Huge. And I've also worked on the Hong Kong Airport Railway, which was probably about 30 miles as well.
Wow.
When you work on a railway, it's very long and thin. That's a good way to describe it. Whereas, if you work in a building site in the city centre, the whole thing can be less than 100 meters wide. Whereas, so the difference, if you do a tunnel under, if you do one of these tunnels under the English Channel, for example, the Euro tunnel, that is about 25 miles long, I think, something like that. So, these are huge, huge things. So the biggest single thing, I think, is a 30-mile long railway.
We're getting loads of questions through, so thank you everybody who is taking part in sending the questions through. This is one of my favorite questions to get to ask. Who inspires you?
Who inspired me? What to?
I suppose we'll double barrel it and we'll say who inspired you to. I know you said about the bridge being built, but is there somebody at the point before you decided to be an engineer who you thought that work is amazing and I want to take part in something similar? Is there somebody like that?
Well, I would say a couple of things before I decided on civil engineering were my maths and physics teacher at school. They encouraged me to look at things like that. I had no idea what civil engineering was. I didn't know what kind of people built bridges, but they inspired me to go and look at it, go and look, try and find out. And so I did, and here I am, 30 years later. I am inspired as well by, believe it or not, some of the Victorian engineers. So that picture of that big bridge that I showed earlier, the one that we're going to build the visitor centre on top of, the big red steel bridge, that was built by Victorians 130 years ago. They didn't have big cranes like we did. They didn't have computers. They didn't have iPads, mobile phones. They didn't have cars. They had horses. I find it incredible what they did, and I'm also inspired by builders of way back in time as well. People who built the pyramids. The pyramids is civil engineering. That's one of the earliest examples of civil engineering. Stonehenge. I look at Stonehenge and I look at it and think, how on earth did they get those big stones on top up there? And so, that's the curiosity in me, I think. I always look at things and think, how did they build that? I want to build one of them.
Yeah.
So whenever I look at something like a bridge or a pyramids or Stonehenge, I always think, I don't know how they built that. I want to find out. And so these people inspired me. I don't know who they were, but they inspired me.
Yeah. This is an interesting question. If you could make any kind of transport electric, which transport would you transfer over to being electric powered rather than powered by fossil fuels?
Oh, well, we're already doing it in railways, and that's good. And everyone seems to be doing it in cars now. I mean, I must admit, I don't have an electric car, but I think my next car will be electric. I'm pretty sure I'll buy an electric car next. If you think it's going to be difficult to move aviation, flying, onto electric. But believe it or not, there are electric planes in use for very short haul flights. I believe there's a scheduled flight in Norway, I think it is, that uses electric planes. And that would be fantastic if aviation could move to electric, because aviation, as you can imagine, that burns a lot of fossil fuel. So I would love to try and turn aviation to electric, and by extension, space travel. I can't see anytime soon that we'll be using electric rockets. Now, if anyone that's watching this today can invent an electric rocket, brilliant. But if you can develop electric airplanes, that will be absolutely fantastic.
So what is the favorite part of your job that you get to do day to day?
I think it's to see people using it, but well, that's not true, because I don't get to see that day to day. Day to day, what I get most out of it is when we have, for example, a meeting and it's really difficult, and at the end of the meeting everyone agrees and thinks, actually, yeah, let's all do that. So everyone in the meeting, it could be 2 or 3 people, it could be a dozen people, if we all agree, yes, this is what we've agreed to do. You 2 are going to go off and do that. You 2 are going to go off and do that. These 4 people will do that, and then we'll bring it all. So if it's when you get agreement with a group of people, I think I said before, getting people to work together that's the secret of engineering. Actually, it's a secret in any kind of job, I suppose. Absolutely crucial in engineering. So I get the most satisfaction when we have a really difficult problem But after a bit of discussion, we all agree this is the way we're going to deal with it, and we go off and do it.
Yes, so that sort of that communication and seeing people almost come together that's the favorite part of
communication. It's the most difficult aspect, because people tend to want to do their own thing. Everybody thinks this is the way that I think we should build this, or this is the way I think we should build this. Where actually, if everyone thinks differently, you won't get it done. It won't happen. You have to come together. So that's what I like.
Do any of your family do something similar? Is anybody else immediately related?
Yeah,
engineering?
I've got 3 siblings. So I'm one of 4 children. I've got an older brother who works in aeronautical engineering. So he does jet engines for aircraft. And actually, that's what he's looking at now. He's moving across into trying to work out whether they can make electric engines for aircraft. So he's doing that. My sister is a nuclear engineer, she works in nuclear industry, so atomic or nuclear power stations. To be honest, I hardly understand what she does. It's so complicated. And then I have another brother who's a bricklayer. So he's not an engineer, he's a bricklayer. But I look at him and think, wow, I wish I could do what you do, because some of the stuff that he can build is incredible.
You sort of trying to think. Would you, like, if you had kids, would you push them into doing engineering as well and sort of show them the real merits of doing that? Would you?
I wouldn't push them. No, I don't believe in. I've got a son. I do have a son. He's 15. And I will show him engineering. I'll show him what I do, and I'll be very open and honest with him. But I won't push him into anything.
Yeah.
He needs to decide. I would hate to think I would push him into doing something, and then after 10 or 15 years of doing it, he thinks, I hate this.
Yeah.
So I would rather he makes up his own mind. And, I would encourage you all to do that. Everyone here on this call today. Listen to what people have to say. Be curious. Look at all the different careers. Look at all the different types of engineers, scientists, or mathematics. It doesn't really matter. Look at it all with an open mind. And I think in time, you'll decide, oh, I want to do that. That's a good thing to do. Just go off and do it. That's the best thing.
It's isn't it? The quality comes out of the passion that you've got for it. So it's because you were so excited to get into it, and you were so excited and amazed and passionate about the sort of things you've seen building around you, makes you want to do your job as absolute best as you possibly can, and it means you enjoy going to work day to day. So
yes,
I think
exactly.
I agree.
I could have. I didn't want. I looked at medicine. I looked at being a doctor, and I thought, no, I think I'd rather build things. But somebody else might think, oh, I'd rather help people who are unwell. That's fine. Do that. Absolutely do that. It's whatever you find interesting. What I'm hoping is that a lot of people don't know what civil engineering is, and so they won't find it interesting because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully I've explained what it is. And it's a huge range of things: bridges, airports, tunnels, harbours, railways. It's a huge range of things. So if you find any of those things interesting, have a look.
I know you mentioned that your sister is sort of doing like nuclear engineering.
Yeah.
Are you noticing, like, I know you work for Network Rail, are you noticing more women coming to work for Network Rail and more women moving into civil engineering? Because it's there's been quite a bit of a split in there, hasn't it, now? And it seems like it's starting.
When I started more than 25 years ago, it was mainly men that came into engineering. That's changed completely changed, because I think people have realized it's not about being strong and lifting stuff or anything. It's absolutely nothing, and it's not the environment, the workplace that I work in, I would say is at least half women, possibly more. It's about half and half, something like that. And of the new entrants, new people coming into engineering, it seems to be more and more women. So the balance is correct, and that's what you need. You need a balance of not just men and women, but people from different backgrounds as well. You need a good balance, because you know what? They bring different ideas. If you get a whole group of men trying to solve a problem, you'll get, the ideas will be a little bit limited that come out of that. If you get more people from different backgrounds, and that are both men and women, you'll get different ideas, and you'll get a better selection out of ideas, and you'll get a better solution. And I think that's what's happening now. So, you know, engineering is for everyone, absolutely everyone. Do it. If you like it, just do it.
Yeah, I think, like you say, there's so many different things that you can go into and still become an engineer. I think it's, yeah, I think I couldn't think of anything more interesting to start doing as a kid. And it's, I do believe, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we actually had an electrical engineer from Network Rail as well on, called Carrie. She was a lady from Hong Kong, and she's based out of York, I think.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that she had about the tools that she uses, and I know that she said that one of her favorite parts of working as well was also the communication between people and the working together aspect of it. But she also said that it does look like a lot more women are moving into it, which I think is absolutely brilliant. It's nice to see it modernizing, so to speak. It's
there is.
it makes it more diverse, and more diversity increases the amount of ideas.
The message has to be everyone can do engineering, and everyone should do engineering, and everyone should do medicine as well, or accountancy. It doesn't really matter what your choice is, but don't be afraid to do it. Whether you're a boy or a girl, don't think I can't do that because I'm a boy, or I can't do that because I'm a girl. Nonsense. You can do whatever you want to do.
Well, I think that is an amazing point to sort of leave off to the closing statement. I am really sorry to cut this short, because I'm having an amazing time, and I do wish I could keep firing lots of questions at you. I do not want to keep you from the amazing work that you're doing for too long. I do hope you've enjoyed your time here with us as much as I've enjoyed having
Good fun.
watch you, and I hope everybody who is watching has also enjoyed today's episode. As I say, thank you again. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today about your work, and it is really, really interesting. And as we've been talking about, I hope a lot of kids are watching and have realised that civil engineering can be so interesting. And if you have a passion for it, like you say, you should go out and do it, and you should make it happen.
Yes. Please do it. Thanks.
Right,
Thanks for having me.
No problem. As I say, it's been massively inspiring. Remember, you can watch all of the interviews every week at Wednesday at 1:30. So don't worry if you've missed anything at all from this interview. If you joined us late, you can still catch it on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/primary in a few days' time when it's been uploaded, and you can look through all the other interesting people we've had the courtesy of talking to. Remember, all of the resources and everything you need for your project are all online at www.leadersaward.com. And that is all from myself and Colin. So thank you for joining us, and happy engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later, Colin.
Bye.